Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be ranking the Doctor's regenerations from worst to best. Now, one of my fellow Who-tubers and good buddy of mine, Paul Who, recently did a video ranking the regenerations, and I thought to myself, you know what? After watching his video, which was a great video, by the way, he said, you know what? I haven't ranked the regenerations in a while, and with the War Games in Color coming out, we do have a new one to add to the list, so I thought, you know what? That's a good time to sit down, look at the Doctor's regenerations, and give them a ranking. Now, I'm not going to be having the regenerations from Power of the Doctor when the Master steals the Doctor's body and the Doctor steals it back. Those just don't count as proper regenerations to me, with it being basically body stealing. I just don't think they fit in here, so I'm not going to have those. Also, all of the Timeless Children regenerations from the Timeless Children, when there's like 1,000 of them, we're not counting those as well. We're looking at the main Doctor regenerations. Now, some of them will be on here more than once. Like the first to the second Doctor, we'll have the 10th Planet version, and we'll have the Twice Upon a Time version. And the same thing with the second Doctor into the third Doctor. We'll have the original War Games version, and then we'll have the War Games in Color version. The 6th to 7th Doctor will be on here twice because we have the original version, and then we have that updated version they gave us for the DVD release that was an Easter egg, and it's on the Season 24 box set where they actually have Colin's face there. We're going to have those separately as well. And going by all the ones I've seen, there's about 19 of these total. So going by my ranking, there's about 19 of these total. And of course, we're going to start at the bottom in last place with number 19th. And number 19 is the 10th Doctor into the 10th Doctor. The regeneration between Stolen Earth and Journey's End, when the Doctor starts to regenerate, but manages to transfer the regeneration energy into his hand. Basically, healing himself, but not changing bodies, and setting up the Meta-Crisis Doctor. I don't really get into this one. First off, here in the States, right after the end of Stolen Earth, they played the trailer to Journey's End. So you kind of knew the 10th Doctor was still going to be there because they played a little trailer for it, unlike in the UK where I don't think they did. I think we actually got it later in the year. I think even back then, I don't think we started getting stuff around the same time until Matt Smith's first season. I still think we were running a bit behind with Season 4. So maybe it was common news. I wasn't on the internet back then nearly as much as I am now. And I don't know, just having a regeneration cut off mid-cliffhanger like that, I don't know. And maybe it's because he doesn't change. I don't really count it as a true regeneration. I mean, it is, but in my mind it's not, if that makes sense. Just for some reason, as colorful and nice as the special effects look, it just doesn't do a lot for me. And I just kind of rank it at the bottom because to me it's just sort of a regeneration. And number 18 on the list is the Bi-Generation with 14 and 15. Now, the Bi-Generation itself as a concept doesn't necessarily bother me. I'm kind of middle of the road on it. Like, I'm not just violently against it like some people, but at the same time, I'm not singing its praises like it's the greatest idea ever. It's just, okay, that happened, fine. I'm cool with it happening one time. And it's neat that I guess 14 gets to kind of go off and retire and heal and all that fun stuff. And I guess that gives them an excuse to bring David Tennant back if they ever want to. And whether he'll do it or not, who knows, but I'm sure they'll want to. It's the actual effect I didn't care for. Just the effect of when he separates looks hokey. It just looks bad. When he first splits, when he's like, a lot of these lists, the way they're ranked, I'm not just talking about the regeneration itself, but the moments leading up to the regeneration, and the moments right after the regeneration. So the before, during, and after, and how good I think the regeneration effect looks. I like the bit beforehand when he's talking to Donna and Mel, and I like the fact Alonzi is his kind of last words he thinks. And then the regeneration effect just kind of stops. If they kept the regeneration effect going while he split, and made the split look a little better and quicker, I would have liked it more. But the fact that it just looks weird with him, it just looks so fake. It looks weird. And the fact they stay kind of half apart for as long as they do, is really weird. When they're split here, but not like down below the waist, is really weird. Now, then splitting and their clothes splitting is funny and makes sense. That's the reason why Shooting's running around in his underwear, because their clothes divided between them. That I get, and that's fine. But just the effect itself, I wish you'd still had the regeneration energy going, and I wish the split had come quicker and been a little more dynamic. Just the way they did it came across as a little wonky, weird, and cheesy. That's the reason why it ranks this low, is I didn't like the way they executed it on screen. I feel like you could have done it better. Next on the list is the 11th Doctor regenerating into the 12th Doctor. The sneeze, as we call it. First off, when the Doctor actually regenerates the first time, facing the Dalek ship, the fact he's able to blow up the Dalek ship, that's a little over the top for me. The regeneration energy being that powerful that it blows up the whole Dalek ship and creates all that havoc, it's a little much for me. Now, you could say because it's him getting a new regeneration cycle, everything resetting, you can kind of use that to explain it, I guess, but I still think it's a little over the top and silly. His speech that he gives right before he regenerates is good. It goes on a little too long. It's a little too... I like a lot of it, like the bit about how it all disappears like breath on a mirror. Any moment now, he's a-coming, and the I will always remember when the Doctor's me. I like a lot of that. The him seeing Amy thing was a little much. I mean, I get why it's in there, but it was a little much. It just felt a little too padded. Not much, but a little too padded. And I do love the music that plays there. That is good music right there. But the actual regeneration with the sneeze is a little wonky. Now, credit that they did something different with it. The fact that it's not just the same old regeneration that we always get in Modern Who. The fact they tried to do something different with it. Props for that. It's just the way they executed it with the achoo. The sneeze. It just looks a little... Granted, it was really just, I think, the regeneration catching up with him. The fact that it was a reset, as he said. He'd already really had the regeneration. It was just his body catching up to it, if that makes sense. And again, props for it being different, but just... I just wish it had been done a little better. I like that it was done quick, but just the fact that it was... I wish there'd been a little more to it. Next on the list is the 12th to 13th Doctor. Again, we have a good speech that goes on too long. I like some of the stuff in the speeches, like, always try to be nice but never fail to be kind, run fast, laugh hard, be kind. Even the Doctor, I let you go, but just some of it in there, like the bit about children can hear your name. I get that's a nod towards his speech. It just goes on a little too long. Again, I like the fact they used, I believe, the Shepherd's Boy there again, and I love that piece of music. The regeneration effect itself, I don't like. Just that shot where it's panning out and you see the energy coming out of him. I don't like the way they did the energy. It has a more fluidic look to it, which I don't really like. I do love the final shot of his eyebrows. The fact his eyebrows changing into Jodie's. The fact the very first shot we ever got of Capaldi was of his attack eyebrows. And the very last shot we get of Capaldi is that kind of that same shot of his attack eyebrows. I do like the symmetry there. And the transition into her face is cool. But the actual regeneration, though, when that far away shot of him regenerating, it's just like, I've seen it all before. The speech, the regeneration, I've seen it all before. It's just kind of old hat at this point. Doesn't do much for me. And I do think it's hilarious, the fact that as soon as Whittaker gets there, we get the first female Doctor, and the first thing she has to do is she loses her ring. She has to check herself in the mirror. Then she loses all of her paperwork. Then she gets kicked out of her home. Even her home turns against... I don't know. There's just so many jokes you can make out of that. I mean, it's a nice way to set up a cliffhanger, to be fair, but... I don't know. It just didn't do much for me. It's just not a... It's another one of those regenerations I'm just not overly fond of. The next one, and these are getting into the ones that I like to a degree. The next one is the second Doctor into the third Doctor, the original version from the original version of the War Games. It always kind of bothered me that we never saw the regeneration between 2 and 3. It's cool how they did it. I mean, we hadn't been cast at the time. But how I do like everything leading up to it. The whole trial I enjoy. And the Doctor, I never said that. I insist I have the right to what I look. And then the Time Lord's taking control. the way it does that effect of him spinning in the background with all the faces, that's pretty impressive for the time to be able to pull that off and him just spinning away. And then, of course, the beginning of Spearhead, where he stumbles out in the third Doctor stumbles out in the second Doctor's clothes. I feel like it's pulled off pretty good for the time. But there's always that sense of loss that we never saw it. And that's the main reason it ranks this low. Of course, the newer version will rank higher on the list. But I love the Season 6B theory in that it lends into that. But it was always just a little bit of a loss for me that we never got to see that regeneration. Next on the list is the War Doctor to the Ninth Doctor, which is good. I enjoy it. I like the music for it. I like the fact we got to see it. It loses a little points because we don't fully see it. We see his face just starting to change when it cuts away. Like this part of his face, you see turn into Eccleston's, and they couldn't do the rest of it. And I get why, because Eccleston didn't want to come back. But the fact we didn't quite get all of it, there have been some fan edits on YouTube that look really good of it. But the fact it was almost there, but not quite. I'm happy he regenerated. I liked his last couple lines. I enjoyed his last scene. And I liked the music. I just wish the camera had stayed there a little longer. Next on the list is the first Doctor to the second Doctor from the 10th planet. I do prefer the Twice Upon a Time version of this. I liked it. First off, it's a really impressive effect for the time. The fact that they were able to pull that effect off in like 1966 and make that work with that light coming in. It's one of the most effective regenerations, especially of Classic Who. A lot of the later ones aren't as effective. The bit at the beginning where some of the existing footage exists as 8mm footage, where you see the Doctor a little nervous standing there working the TARDIS controls, and then of course him on the ground. It's pretty neat to see. It's like he's nervous, like he doesn't know what's going to happen or how he'll feel about it. But the actual regeneration looks good. It takes a little longer than I like. I feel like the Twice Upon a Time one might be a little too short, but I feel like this version's a little too long, maybe if they met somewhere in the middle. And I don't really like the TARDIS sound in the background, which at the time made perfect sense. But I feel like because he doesn't have to be, the TARDIS doesn't seem quite as essential to it now. It just feels a little distracting having the TARDIS sound in the background. And the fact that it takes a little longer than I wish it would. But it's still a really neat and impressive effect. And I feel like this one would hit harder if I could see the whole episode. Instead, only the clip survives and a couple other clips from the episode. But the fact that I either have to watch it animated, which is still nice, or I have to just watch the clip or as part of a recon, and I can't see it at the end of the whole episode, also probably hurts it a little for me. Next on the list is the third to the fourth Doctor. This one was originally lower because the actual effect of the change isn't that impressive. It's just that simple fade. I mean, it looks quite possibly the least effective in all of Classic Doctor when you just see Pertwee's face change to Tom's. The reason this one ranks this high is, one, I love the stuff happening right before with the Doctor falling down and being like, the TARDIS brought me home, and his whole bit about, a tear, Sarah Jane. The fact all of that's done without music, too, is really nice. And the fact that the Doctor dies, like, mid-sentence, while this life is... And he dies. And he dies. He emphatically, the Doctor dies. You can tell he dies. I know Modern Who tries to claim that's not the case, but he dies. I mean, you can see he just dies mid-sentence with his eyes open, and you see Sarah or the Brigadier close his eyes. Like, he's dead. And the fact it takes a push from the other Time Lord to cause his cells to start the regenerative process because he'd been so ravaged by the Metabelus radiation. I enjoy that whole scene. That really bolsters it. Plus, the beginning of Robot, too, with the Doctor waking up, his little speech. Tom's very much Tom right from the get-go, which I love. I enjoy that as well. And then just the fact that I love the third and fourth Doctors so much. They're two of my favorite Doctors. Seeing, even if the transition between one face to the other isn't that impressive and is very basic, just seeing the third Doctor leaving and the fourth Doctor's face for the first time always brings a smile to my face because I love both the Doctors. And that's why it ranks this high. Even if I wish the effect was updated. If they do updated effects for Planet of the Spiders, I hope they update the regeneration. Interestingly enough, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, but for the updated effects of Maldron Undead, the scene when the Brigadier's getting his memories back, and it's playing some clips from the previous episodes because it's the Brigadier getting his memories back. When it shows the regeneration from 3 to 4, the effect's been updated slightly. I don't know if any of y'all have noticed that, but if you go back and look, the effect, it's not the original effect. They have tweaked it a little bit and made it look a little better. And it works a little better. I like that. I actually like that updated regeneration effect that they show in the flashback to Modern Undead. They could take that and put it right there at the end of Planet of the Spiders, and I'd be happy with that. It's just a nice little upgrade that makes it work a little better, and I would enjoy that more. Next on the list is the 6th Doctor to the 7th Doctor, the original effect where the 6th Doctor regenerated into the 7th Doctor. Sylvester McCoy regenerated into Sylvester McCoy. Now, I know it gets a lot of flack because it's just McCoy in a wig. But one, considering the situation, I think they pull it off really well. One, it fooled me as a kid. The first time I saw this regeneration, I was very little. It always stuck with me. Had me fooled. And two, I actually like the special effect they do on the face. It works. I like that little glowing effect on the face. It works. It looks nice. I like it. Now, it's not quite centered when he's first rolled over, so you can tell it's McCoy in a wig, because when he first rolls him over, it takes it that second to kind of center. But it's effective. Also, in canon, the fact that when he's being rolled over, he's already partway through the regenerative process. It's not like he rolls over and then starts regenerating. When he's being rolled over, he's like halfway through the process already. So it makes sense that it's not Colin there. That's at least at my head canon. As soon as he's rolled over, he's already partway regenerating. So we're catching him partway through the process. And the fact that, like I said, I think they pull it off pretty well, considering Colin Baker wouldn't get back and the circumstances they were in. I do take that into account. And again, the little special effect looks good. I like it. So that's why it falls here. I give it more credit than most. Next on the list is the updated version of this effect. That was an Easter egg on the Time and the Ronnie DVD release, and you can watch it on the Blu-ray. You can actually have it set on the Blu-ray where it plays the alternate version at the beginning of Time and the Ronnie. I do prefer this version a little more, where it actually has Colin's face regenerate into McCoy's. And you do kind of have the gold, yellowish regeneration energy from Modern Who there. I think you even have the sound effect there a little bit. My only little nitpick is that when it shows Colin there, his eyes are slightly open, and when he regenerates, they're closed. And for some reason, that just looks a little weird to me when he's regenerating and the face shifts from Colin's eyes kind of partway open to McCoy's where they're closed. I don't know why. That thing seems a little wonky to me, but it does. I do slightly prefer this version because I am actually getting to see Colin regenerate into Sylvester, and that does punch it up for me just a little. They're close, but the updated version does win out just a bit. Next on the list, and we're definitely getting into ones I like, is 13 into 14. I like the 13th Doctor's regeneration. One, I like the fact that she doesn't give a whole lot of big speeches. And two, the fact she's not upset about regenerating. She actually handles it better than most doctors. Also, it's intercutting with her and the kind of companion support group where we're getting to see all the companions talking, and we get to see Ian and Joe and Mel, and seeing them was really nice. And the fact that Jodie's more just, just going to pop outside, take care of the next one. I like the fact she doesn't regenerate in the TARDIS either. I love that little spot she does regenerate. That is a beautiful location. For her to be standing there kind of watching the sunset, sunrise, looks gorgeous. I enjoy her last lines, especially the bit about, tag, you're it, the Doctor, whoever I'm about to be, tag, you're it. I like that line. I like the optimism behind that regeneration. The effect is really nice. The actual regeneration effect. I love the camera pan there. And you kind of get the feeling that since they didn't know if the series was going to continue after that, that would have been a really good final shot of the modern Doctor Who series, of her regenerating as the camera pans around. The music there is really good. The kind of 13th Doctor theme really fits right there. And then I like the regeneration into 14. I don't mind the clothes changing. That doesn't bother me. I mean, there is a precedent for that because the first Doctor's clothes changed into the second Doctor's clothes, so it's not just coming out of nowhere. And then I enjoy Tennant's reaction to changing the, I know these teeth, and then the what, which is, of course, very Tennant, the different whats. It's nice. I like that. It's a good little setup for the 60th. And then the regeneration itself is just really, really good. I like how 13 approached it much more optimistically than most of the modern Doctors. Next on the list is the 8th Doctor to the War Doctor. First off, this being a mini episode, all of it really does kind of center around this moment, the 8th Doctor regenerating into the War Doctor. That's pretty much what the whole mini episode is about. I enjoy the whole mini episode. I mean, just having McGann back. It is so fantastic to have McGann back on the screen. Because McGann is such a good Doctor. The 8th Doctor is a great Doctor, and I love how McGann plays him. In the TV movie and here and in the audios. I mean, you know, McGann actually does have a huge body of Doctor Who work. A lot of it's just audio. Most of it's just audio. But he's good in those audios. There are people out there whose favorite Doctor is the 8th Doctor. And I can understand that. I've heard a lot of 8th Doctor stories that are great. One of the best Cybermen stories of all time is an 8th Doctor audio. Sword of Orion, I believe it's called. That one was great. I loved that one. And McGann was fantastic in it. So I love having McGann back. I love his reactions. I like how he's not quite as optimistic as he was in the TV movie. You can tell his life has affected him and the things he's been through. And McGann just sells every second of screen time. 4 minutes, that's ages. What if I get bored? I love the 8th Doctor. There's like some 4th Doctor snark right there. And I love it. Love it. He just sells every second he's on screen. The fact we have not gotten a miniseries with this Doctor is a crime, but they're going to give us the war between the land and the sea. You ever get the idea that the people working on Doctor Who now have no idea what they're doing? But no, don't give us our 8th Doctor spinoff. We actually want that. Who's going to be watching the War on the Sea spinoff? Raise your hands. Not me. Anyway. I like the bits before the regeneration. I like the fact he acknowledges a lot of his Big Finish companions, thus making them officially canon. I like the fact it's the elixir, which can kind of control it. I like the woman who plays kind of the head woman in Con, the one who shows back up for like Hellbent. I like her. She's really good in that role. And then I like the actual regeneration. I like his final words of physician heal thyself. Great final words. And then the actual regeneration is great. I love the fact he starts the regeneration standing up and ends it lying down, which is a nice hybrid between the two Doctors, because all of the classic Doctors regenerate lying down. All of the modern Doctors regenerate standing up, which was fantastic when it first happened, but it's kind of old hat now. So I like the fact that McGann, kind of being the halfway point between classic and modern, takes that middle-of-the-road approach where he starts the regeneration standing up, but it's so painful. And I love when Doctor Who keeps in mind that regeneration is a painful thing because your entire body is changing, that it puts him in so much agony, it drops him to the ground. I love that. And then how it handles the post-regeneration with John Hurt, since, of course, John Hurt was not young at the time. The fact that we get to see the younger version of John Hurt, so we get the idea that the War Doctor was the War Doctor for a very long time and that he fought this war for a very long time. How they did that with the shot of his reflection being the younger Doctor was very well done. Very, very well done. So yes, this one ranks really high for me. Next on the list is the 2nd to 3rd Doctor from the War Games in color. I love this update. Now, I will admit, I do prefer the original Confession Dial edit a little better than the official one we got in the episode. One, I like the music better, which I believe is some 13th Doctor era music. I love that music that plays when he's regenerating. I also like how we get that bit at the beginning with all the black background behind him and he's hearing all the voices in the background. And then I also enjoy the shot when the TARDIS is traveling through space through the time vortex and you see it passing all the planets like Jupiter and all that. And I just feel like it's edited slightly better there. I do. And we even get some of Season 6B. I do think it's mostly the music, though. I love that music from the 13th Doctor era. So I do prefer the Confession Dials version overall better. Now, there are some things I prefer in the newer edit, like having the actual white TARDIS console. I never liked the green TARDIS console. I never do. I prefer the white TARDIS console. So I like the fact they did make it white for the official edit, the white console. I love the fact that it showed us all the clips. Instead of doing the Season 6B clips, we got the clips from the Second Doctor's era, including that beautiful clip of right when he regenerates into the Second Doctor and he's, it's over. Especially the fact they got that clip to look so good, because that clip only exists, I think, on 8mm film that a fan shot. And if you see the regular version of it, it looks a little rough. I mean, I'm glad we have it, but it looks a little rough. The fact they were able to clean it up that much is really impressive. But I loved that little clip show. I like that they still kept the original ending with the Doctor spinning into the background. I love, too, when it has the Doctor's multiple faces and how they did the different colors at one point. Like the one in the middle is black and white, and then you had the yellow one, the blue one, the red one, the purple one. I like how they colorized those like that and still had the one in the middle in black and white as a nice homage to the original version. So I love the fact that we still get the original ending with the Doctor spinning in the background, how that transitions to him being in the TARDIS as it spins. Then we get the clip show. Then it leads in to Confession Dial's regeneration. The music they use for the official version that Mark picked is still good. It's not as good as the one in the original YouTube video, but it's still good. And I do enjoy a couple little things, like once it's Pertwee there, there's the shot of him looking up at the TARDIS console when he notices the unit dating, or the dating being off. That's slightly longer where you actually see Pertwee look up at the console before it cuts over. I like the fact that's slightly extended. But just overall, I love the fact we got to see the regeneration from 2 to 3. And season 6B can still be canon. I believe, I've never listened to Beyond War Games, but from what everybody tells me, the way they do it in Beyond War Games, it can still work. But I do like the fact that we actually get to see the regeneration. The effect is really nice. Of course, they take the Modern Who approach with the yellow energy. I'm fine with that. It looks really good. And when you see Troughton, I wish they'd kept in a couple of the sound bites from the original release when he's like, exile? No, no. I do kind of like that where he's a little more defiant as he's about to regenerate. I wish they'd kept that in. But I still like it with him looking around and him grabbing the chair. And then the actual shot of him changing is really good. I like how they add in the meteorites landing from Spearhead. And then the shots of when he first wakes up as Pertwee, which, yes, I know is sourced from Inferno, but it still looks gorgeous. The fact that the technology exists to make that convincingly work boggles my mind. But those shots of Pertwee, when he's like, what's happening? What? Huh? Whew. You know, I love that. And then how it transitions into the beginning of Spearhead. I love that they kept that in the War Games in color and how they had the beginning of Spearhead with him stumbling out of the TARDIS. I really like that. That really makes this regeneration pop for me. So I wish when they put out the season 6 box set that you could watch the original version of the War Games, the full 10 episodes. But I wish there's an option to still have that ending in there. Like it starts in black and white, and then as the TARDIS is traveling to Earth, it transitions into color right before the actual regeneration. Because I'd love to be able to watch the full version of the War Games, but still have this regeneration at the end, because I do love it a lot. The next one on the list is the TV movie one, 7 regenerating into 8. I like this one because there's no other one quite like this one. This one has a very different feel to it. I like the effect that they use for the faces shifting from McCoy's to McGann's. And this is another situation where the Doctor died. Flat out, the Doctor is dead. He is put in the little cold storage thing. He's dead. So I love how they filmed this. I love the lightning effect, the kind of blue lightning effect going on, the little X-ray effect it almost shows a couple times. And then again, I like how the face is kind of morphing and bending, and then how it shifts from McCoy to McGann. I actually think there's a couple different versions of this. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if that's accurate, or if it's my memory cheating, but I think I've seen a couple different versions of this. First off, I love the music. The music that plays right when he's regenerating. You know, when you see his hand drop down. I love the parallels with Frankenstein and how it's paralleling what's happening in Frankenstein. I love that. You know, kind of rebirth. And you see the hand drop and that cool little creepy music that's playing as the hands start moving. Then you see the cold breath come out of his mouth. And then you see his eyes open. And then it cuts to his eyes looking around. And then you see him sit. I love that whole bit there. I love the editing. I love the cinematography. I love the music. It's just perfect. Now, of course, then it kind of gets weird when it goes from him being Frankenstein to him being Jesus, kind of waking up and resurrecting. But nothing's perfect, I guess. And then I love the fact McGann just knocks the door down. And the whole bit when the guy's like, no, and then just passes out. It's kind of funny to me. And now McGann looks at him like, okay. But I really enjoy that. Also, this regeneration remembers, because it looks painful. This is another one that makes me think the process of regeneration is very painful. Especially when you see McGann when he first regenerates. Now, he's dead unconscious for it, but it still looks incredibly painful if he'd been awake for it. But I would love to see another regeneration that kind of borrows from this. This one has a more horror aspect to it and a more creepy aspect to it than I think any other regeneration, and I'm totally there for it. Easing into the top 5 now. In number 5, we have the 9th Doctor to the 10th Doctor. The first time we have the now classic regeneration effect, and the first time we ever saw the Doctor regenerate standing up, which for the time I think was very novel, because we'd never seen it before. I like the fact that he regenerates standing up. I love all of the stuff before it as he's reassuring Rose what's going on, keeping in mind that for a lot of people, for an entire generation, this was their first regeneration. This was the first time some of them even learned about regeneration. So it's not just the Doctor assuring Rose, it's also him reassuring the audience that everything's okay, kind of guiding their hand about what's about to happen, kind of letting them know, hey, it's going to be okay. The actual regeneration looks great. I love the fact that this one, much like the last one, really showcases the regeneration can be painful. I love the fact it's not just a simple transition from one phase to another, like it is even with most of the Doctor Who, even most of the modern Who regenerations, where it's just a quick change from one to the other. It's actually a slow process. You can see when his head is up, you see this part changing, and then the cut to where it shows his face transition into tens. I like the fact that it takes its time to show that happening more slowly, because it looks painful. It looks painful, but I like the fact that it's a slower process than that. That means a lot. The music there is also really good. And then I liked the effect. It was just a cool explosion effect, and I liked the fact it didn't blow up the whole TARDIS doing it. But yeah, I liked the bit there at the beginning. I liked the regeneration. And then I liked the little bit at the end where you get just a slight taste of the new Doctor. But still knowing it's the same guy, he was like, oh yeah, Barcelona. You know, enough to leave Rose, like the audience, going, what? As the 10th Doctor would say, what? I love that. I absolutely thought that was a great way to introduce people to the concept of regeneration, since there's probably an entire generation who was very confused about what was happening. I think it handled that very, very well. Moving into the top 4 on the list, we are looking at the 5th Doctor into the 6th Doctor. I like this one a lot. This one also has a unique look to it. One of the advantages to Classic Who kind of doing its own thing with each regeneration is that you get different things. And the fact that some regenerations are unique to where they're the only regeneration who does that is this one. I love the effect of the kind of psychedelic image slowly filling the screen until at the end it's just overtaking the screen as that music that always reminds me of A Day in the Life by the Beatles is playing in the background. I just love how everything in this regeneration is building. Now, first off, Caves of Androzani just in general is fantastic. We're talking about a regeneration story written by the greatest Doctor Who writer of all time, Robert Holmes. I love Bob Holmes. That man wrote Doctor Who better than anyone. And some of the greatest, he either wrote or page one rewrote some of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time. And I would argue that Caves of Androzani could be the best regeneration story that's ever been done. I like how it's basically the Doctor trying to get out of this situation where all the sides are bad to one degree or another. There's no good side for him to take here. All the sides around him are bad. And he has ended up in this situation he just has to get the heck out of. Kind of like a First Doctor historical sometimes, where the Doctor and company show up, they realize, oh, we don't need to be here, and they are trying to get out. And in this situation, him and Perry both become poisoned, and it's starting to affect them throughout the course of the story, that by the end of it, the Doctor is literally just, well, maybe not literally, but he's practically on fumes. He is just out of gas. You get this impression that, especially pretty much all of episode 4, he is carrying on through sheer force of will. To the point to where you almost start to see him regenerate in episode 3 when he starts to see that little glowing energy that very reminiscent of the modern Who. It's almost like a classic Who equivalent of the modern Who regeneration energy. Almost like how in modern Who, he can hold off a regeneration for a while. That's kind of him doing that here. And pretty much all of episode 4 is him just holding it off and managing through sheer force of will. I enjoy the speech he gives at the end to Nicola right before he regenerates, even if Nicola does upstage him a bit. She does make a couple really good points, you know. But it is a good speech. And then I love the regeneration itself. Now, the bit where the other companions kind of pop on screen and are floating around is a little weird and a little dizzying. I kind of wish the way they had shot... I like them coming back, especially Adric. I just wish it had been shot a little differently. And I love the fact the Fifth Doctor's last word is Adric, showing just how much Adric's death had impacted him. And then seeing the Master dominating the screen and laughing at him. And everything coming together, the Master's laugh growing, the music building, the psychedelic image has slowly been taking over the screen to where it's all you see left. And then this huge just boom and boom, the Sixth Doctor sits up. And it happens so close that it looks like he's laying like right where the Fifth Doctor was, that you truly believe this is the same person with a new face. And just the way the Sixth Doctor sits up. And I love the little bit afterwards where we get a little taste of the Sixth Doctor, and he's already acting like the Sixth Doctor. I like how the first thing he does is look at his hands with that smile like, Doctor, you were expecting someone else? You know, makes you sound like quite the conceited young lady. Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment to. That's very much the Sixth Doctor. I just love how in character the Sixth Doctor is right here from the jump. It's a great ending. And I love how the credits have Colin's face with Colin's name first. That's just perfectly fitting. I love that. So yeah, I just love the uniqueness of this one and that psychedelic look feeling. It's a really good regeneration. It moves me every time I see it. From a great regeneration story. Next on the list is 10 into 11. This one had a huge impact on me when it originally aired because I was a really big David Tennant fan for a long time. He was my solid number 2 for a long time. I just thought he was really good in the role. David Tennant is a good actor. Part of it is the music here, that Valle de Sim, however you're supposed to pronounce it. I don't speak Latin. But that is a beautiful piece of music. It's one of the best pieces of music to ever come out of Doctor Who. It's sad and mournful and full of sorrow. And I love the epic feel of it. I liked everything about this one. I liked the 10th Doctor being frustrated that he has to regenerate. I like it because the 10th Doctor really liked being the 10th Doctor. The Doctor really liked being this incarnation. And he really didn't get to be him very long. So I understand his frustration at being happy with who he is and knowing who he is. And then having to change and lose all of that, at least going by modern Who standards. I understand the frustration. And David Tennant sells it. The scene when he has a fit about it. And then knowing, because he knows he's going to do it anyway. He knows. He just wants to have a little spat about it. And I'm okay with that because I feel like his Doctor earned it. And, you know, this was also the first time that a whole generation of Doctor Who fans had really lost a Doctor that they had time to attach to. Because Eccleston was kind of there and gone. Just as you're starting to click with him, he leaves. This is the first time where people had really had a chance to grow with a Doctor. Had to grow up with a Doctor. Because Tennant had been there basically from the end of 2005 to the beginning of 2010. So a lot of people had time to really grow and grow up with him. And so this was a huge loss for them. And I just like that. The I don't want to go line is perfect. And I think the way Tennant says it is perfect. I know they recorded 4 different takes of that. I think I might have went with take 2. I think they used take 3. Take 4 was too much. Take 1 wasn't enough. Takes 2 and 3 were the best. I might have went with 2, but 3 is still really good. And it's I get it. And then the music hitting Rise's face starts glowing. I think this is the first time where you'd really seen the regeneration effect start with the glow instead of just exploding out of him out of nowhere. I like here where it slowly is taking effect and he's starting to glow more. The music's building. That music really sells it. I wish the face had shifted a little more between Tennant and Smith instead of just going from Tennant to Smith. I wish there'd been a little more of a morph in between. But other than that, I like it. And then I enjoy Smith's first couple minutes on the screen. You know, when he just looks like he's having so much fun with the role. I enjoy his dialogue. I like the music that plays. It's just a really emotional, impactful, and fun scene. Once Smith gets on the scene, it's really, really fun. But I feel so much a sense of loss. Also, this is the first time where he really blew up the TARDIS regenerating, which, while it's become tropey and old hat now, I thought it was really neat for the time, just to show how epic his regeneration was, that it caused all that with the TARDIS. Plus, it's a great excuse for them to redo the TARDIS interior for Matt. That works really well in canon. I really enjoy this one. It still moves me when I watch it. Number 2 on the list is the 4th Doctor into the 5th Doctor. I've always enjoyed this one. Of course, I'm a huge Tom Baker fan, so it's always a bit of a melancholy feeling when I'm watching Logopolis and I see him regenerate at the end. Part of the reason I love this one is that the 4th Doctor faces it head on. He is not afraid of it. Where you see other doctors get upset or have a fit or not be too sure, what does the 4th Doctor do? Smiles. He smiles. We get that last Tom Baker grin with the 4th Doctor. I love the fact this Doctor's not afraid of death. And it's interesting because you never quite know how much of it he knows ahead of time. Because you know he has some foreknowledge from when he talks with the Walker, but since the Watcher, he talks with the Watcher. But since we don't actually hear the conversation, it's left a bit ambiguous just how much he knows of what's coming, including his own death, of how aware he is of what's going to happen. And I like that about the story too. But I love the fact that the 4th Doctor goes out saving the universe, or most of the universe. The fact that, you know, he's not afraid, like he tells the Master, you know, only so long as that cable holds. Although he says it more to himself. The fact that he, you know, even when he's about to die, you know, he's fighting as he can to rip that cable out to save, you know, the universe, because that's what the Doctor does. And then I think it's done really well. I love the music. The music during his final battle as he's pulling it free, the music that plays during the I love that music that plays during the regeneration as well. Seeing the flashbacks of all of his villains before he falls. I like in the updated effects you actually see the fall. That's really nice. I do enjoy the updated effects for this story. I love that camera pan it does when you first see him on the ground, how the camera kind of does this very, very unusual for Classic Who, where the camera pans down to him laying on the ground. It's a really nice camera shot. And I love seeing the Doctor remembering all of his past companions. I love the music there too. It's really good music. And I love the fact that when he comes to, he just looks at them and we get that last Tom Baker grin. And I love the fact that he doesn't make some grand speech. He doesn't make some big farewell, happy when the Doctor was me. Remember when the Doctor was me. He just gives the moment has been prepared for line, which is iconic in itself. A lot of people remember that line, the moment has been prepared for. It's a great line. And it's very in keeping, I think, with Tom Baker and the 4th Doctor, that it is that symbol. Because the Doctor knows he's not dying. He's just changing. But he's not dying, and that everything will be okay. And I like how he points back to the Watcher, and then he kind of just runs out of gas, and you see the arm fall, and how the Watcher... I love how this regeneration is done, actually, with the Watcher merging with him. I really like that. And then the shift between the Doctor, the Watcher, the kind of cross in between, and then the 5th Doctor. It's nice, like a butterfly coming out of its cocoon, very much. I like that transition. It's actually a pretty impressive effect for the time, where you transition from the 4th Doctor into the Watcher, into the semi-5th Doctor, into the 5th Doctor. I like that transition. I like the music. And I love how the 5th Doctor just sits up like, sup. And then it cuts. It's a really good one. And again, I always just get this, because it's the 4th Doctor. And not only is it the 4th Doctor, but he goes out like a boss, saving most of the universe, stopping the Master, and not being afraid of death. And accepting it, that it's coming, and he's going to be all right. He's going to change, he's going to be different, but he's still going to be the Doctor. I love that. And then I like Peter's reaction to just, sup. I love this one a lot. It always just hits me right in the feels. And then number 1 on my list is the Twice Upon a Time regeneration from the First Doctor into the Second Doctor. Part of that is that music. I love that, what, Vale Unos or whatever it is that Murray Gold does. It's basically Ten's music, but with that more optimistic ending right as he's regenerating. That's, again, some of my favorite music in all of Doctor Who. Oh, I wish they would put out the soundtrack. If they put out the soundtrack for Twice Upon a Time, I'd buy it in an instant. I love that piece of music. It's interesting because I love everything leading up to it. I love the final scene with the 10th Doctor and 12th Doctor talking. I enjoy that. I love the music playing right there. I love how it shows the First Doctor back in the TARDIS basically hitting the recall button and his lines about, well then, you know, I like how it shows his hand with the regeneration energy, the modern regeneration energy. And how it goes, you know, here we go, the long way around. I like the way he says that, the long way around. I love how it transitions from the modern footage back into the classic footage, how it transitions back to black and white and to that old school 4:3 aspect ratio. And I love how the music is very sad at first because the First Doctor is about to die. He's about to regenerate. There's that sense of loss. But right when it transitions, when it's transitioning like back to the old footage, how the music suddenly becomes optimistic and hopeful. And it's not the Doctor dying. It's just the Doctor changing. It's a rebirth. It's a regeneration. It's a renewal. And it just gets so optimistic. And you see the TARDIS reappearing there back in the snow. And then it cuts to the actual regeneration. And I love how the music just kicks up as you see the First Doctor's face change into the Second Doctor. And just for a brief second or two, Patrick Troughton is the Doctor again. On TV in 2017, Patrick Troughton is the Doctor. I love that. I do wish the regeneration lasted a little longer. Again, I think it lasted a little too long in the 10th Planet. It's a little too fast here. I wish it was a kind of in between. But I do love the fact that they managed to incorporate the original regeneration into this, and that it transitioned back to the old footage, and that a lot of people for the first time got to see the first regeneration. They got to see the First Doctor regenerate into the second, and it was beautiful. And that music that accompanied it really sells it. My hat's off to Murray Gold there. I don't know why, but I get goosebumps every time I watch that. Goosebumps. I love it. It always makes me smile and really gets the dopamine pumping. Far more so than the 12th Doctor regenerating into the 13th, which was lower on my list. I just, I always find it interesting when I watch some YouTube reactors and their reaction completely cuts out the First Doctor regenerating into the second, which is literally one of the most iconic moments in the whole show and one of the most important moments in the history of the show. And they don't even leave their reaction in. But then they leave in their reaction to 12 and 13 and they're all upset. And I'm like, That's the PG version of what I'm like. I'm generally not happy when I see that. Because that First Doctor to Second Doctor regeneration is so important to the show. And to just not have any kind of reaction to it bothers me. Because I love that reaction. It just hits so hard for me. Again, Murray Gold deserves some credit for that. That music's fantastic. But that is easily my favorite one. It just, every time that happens, I just get so excited. I will literally get on YouTube and just watch that scene because I love that scene so much. It's just shot and edited together so well. And it just makes me so happy that so many people got to see that scene and that we actually had it incorporated into the episode. So that's my favorite regeneration of all time, from Twice Upon a Time, the First Doctor into the second. A little bit of old with a little bit of new. I want to know what you think of this ranking and how you would rank them. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out. If you've never subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I love watching the channel grow. It makes my day every time I see someone new on the subscriber list. That really puts a smile on my face watching that number rise up and rise up and rise up. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. Patrons do get exclusive access to videos. Matter of fact, my Sunday video is almost always a Patreon exclusive. video. They also get early access to videos, sometimes very early access. We're talking like a month ahead of time sometimes. They also get to vote in polls for stuff I review as well and other ideas. And it supports me, and it's certainly appreciated. That helps me keep the bills paid, and my entry-level tier is only $2 a month, and that gets you on the list of credits at the end of the video. So I think that's worth $2 a month, don't you? Check that out. I also want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Unknown289. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members. I have a P.O. box down there if you would like to support me that way. If there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, Doctor Who or otherwise, this is a sci-fi channel after all. Love to get a hold of some Twilight Zone episodes and review those. So check out my P.O. box. It's in the description. Links to my Amazon wishlist are down there, and links to my Amazon UK wishlist are down there as well. I update those regularly. Most importantly, thank you for watching.